Alright guys, how to process your milk kefir. Here's the milk kefir right here in the jars. Mason jar with a regular lid with a coffee filter. Let it breathe. And that's a regular old colander, but you can tell I've drilled a few holes in it. Make it drain a little bit faster. Trick to this is when you get too many grains in there, you think it would get thicker, but it gets thinner. So when it starts getting too thin for you, it's time to separate the grains, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, first of all, go ahead and just get one of these going. That's what it looks like when you first open it up. So we're just going to stir that in. This is pretty thin today. We rinsed the jar and the grains last night, didn't we? It's another thing you can do. Rinse the jar and the grains. Did we put some grains? Did we pull some grains out of here? Just rinsed them. All right, and as you stir that up, that gets a little bit thicker. So this is kind of the perfect scenario here. And you can see it. It's usually a little bit thicker than that. It will be thicker about 90% of the time. But that makes it go through pretty quick. Right. And then one of the jars could be completely different than the next. Depends on how much of the cultures. But here's your cultures here. That's what they call the grains. And that is that's the actual bacteria. It looks like cottage cheese. All right, so we'll stir this one up. Kind of looks the same. And this is the one time that this is the thinnest it's ever been. Usually it's a good bit thicker than this. But we rinsed the grains, and we must have transferred some grains to the other container. Looks like. And that's it. Whenever that gets through, and all you have to do is just leave the jar so you can see what's in the jar. And then just pour your grains right back in there when you're done. If you want to help it along a little bit, not going to hurt the grains. Just shake them around and let them drain. All right, that's about all you're going to get out of there. And then this was, these were clear whenever we put them in last night because we rinsed them. And I just kind of pat them all down. And that's quite a bit of grains, by the way. That's probably why it's so damn thin, because that's way too much. Let's go ahead while we're doing this, and we'll separate some of the grains. And here. Yeah. This is what the grains look like. This is how you put them. Just a minute. Wait. Hang on. Just don't. That's to make yogurt. Let me pause this. All right. This is it here. And let me grab that spoon again. This is the old grains, well, the extra grains. and that's just in regular milk. Might have to pour some of that out, but I think it'll fit. What we're going to do is, I think, about that much left in there, split in half. Let me give it a little bit more. That's plenty. This can go in there. That's not going to have enough room, is it? That's how you keep them. And you can actually keep them if you want to take a break from making kefir for a while. Then you can put them in here. In fact, rinse them off, put them in there, and just leave them in there for a couple weeks. Put some fresh milk on them. And then when you get ready, all right, now I'm just going to, because I got 2 jars, I'm going to half them up. It's about half. Then put them right back in the jar. Alright, and so that's all you have to do. Then we put fresh milk in. Try to get pasteurized, but not homogenized is best. And then we just fill it back up. And that's it. Now you're ready to make. All you have to do is just put the top back on this, and tomorrow this time, 24 hours later, it makes another batch. And 2 tablespoons is plenty to make a quart. So it makes really awesome sour cream. Now you can leave this. This was just grains poured in and then milk poured in on top of it. You can leave that in the refrigerator for a couple of weeks. And then, do you have that? We're just going to put this in there until we get this completely full of grains. We'll pour some of this out, some of the juice out, put some more grains in. You can add powdered milk to it. The freezer. All right, this is the way we have stored some. This is Greek kefir grains we put in there. And so basically all we did, now that's enough for both. That's enough for a half gallon right there. But I have the smaller jar that's about that tall, and I put a little over 2 tablespoons of grains in it. And spread it out, sprinkle them, take them out of here, rinse them in your colander with cold water. Always everything's cold. Rinse them in the sink in the cold water, and then pat them dry, shake them dry. You can throw them out on a paper towel if you want, just kind of roll them around a little bit. Then put them on a tray or something like that. Sprinkle some instant powdered milk. Low fat's fine because it's got more milk, more lactose than the regular milk does. Roll them around till they're coated real good, and then throw them in a jar and throw them in the freezer. And that's basically what they end up looking like. They'll kind of clump together, and they'll last probably a year or 2 like that. And when you pull them out of here, you just run them through the colander, cold water, let them thaw out, rinse them with cold water, and then throw them right in the jar and go right back to work. But if you're just going to be a couple, 3 or 4, 2 or 3 weeks, then just put them in milk, put them in the refrigerator. But you're going to have to throw that milk away because it's going to taste pretty nasty. It'd be pretty bitter if you leave the grains in it. But now the milk kefir itself, once you pull it out of here like we have sitting in the bottom after we separate the grains, you can leave that sitting out on the counter for 3 or 4 or 5 days, and it'll taste just as good. It hardly changes any. So it doesn't have to be refrigerated, but we normally do. Right, and then what Mom does is she takes the kefir out and then mixes it in the Vitamix with different fruits and stuff like that. We make fruit smoothies, and that's what we drink.
Bananas, strawberries, blueberries, pineapple, honey, and keto strawberry now and then.
Now that's about as thin as you're ever going to get it, and that's because we had too many grains, and we rinsed the grains before we put them in last time, and we rinsed the jar. When you start getting up around the top of the jar, like this, and this stuff starts getting really caked on right here and getting thick, then you can just take it, and you have to have a little scrubber, and you clean it out, scrub it, and rinse your grains, and go right back in there. But if you get too many grains, then it'll start getting thin. All right, so with the 2 tablespoons of grains, this will be considerably thicker. Now, if you want to make sour cream or cream cheese or something like that, what you do is you take a little strainer, like a regular strainer, like this, and you put it in a bowl, and you put a coffee filter in here. You set a coffee filter in here, and then you pour it in and set it over your bowl, and then you'll get what they call the whey, which is a clear, kind of greenish liquid, kind of yellowish green. That's what that is. Kind of almost looks like pickled without the pickles in it. And that's some potent stuff. It separates. That comes out into the bottom, and then in here in the coffee filter, you'll have what's beginning to turn into cream cheese, and then sour cream or whatever. And if you pull it out, set another coffee filter and roll it into that, and then put it in. Once the drier it gets, longer it sits there, and you put that in the refrigerator. Longer it sits there, the thicker it gets, and then you'll have some really thick. And the sour cream, when you do a taste test between this and store-bought sour cream, it's like, what's wrong with that store-bought sour cream? I mean, it tastes really weird compared to something like this, natural. Then what we do with this, since we're brewing 2 quarts or close to a half a gallon at a time, we just put this right in here, and then we throw this in the refrigerator. And you can or cannot, we go ahead and rotate it, and we eat the oldest or drink the oldest first, or make our smoothies. And you can drink anywhere from, to start off with, if you've got bad gut bacteria, and you can drink a whole lot of this stuff and cause a war in your gut. So what you want to do is start off drinking about 4 ounces. That's a 16-ounce pint. Start off drinking 4 ounces, and then you see how it does. You drink another 4 ounces. It's best if you start off with a kombucha first, because the kombucha is more powerful. But this is the army here. These guys here, this is the tough guys. And this, you want the resident bacteria to be based on vegetables and fruit juices and stuff like that. Then put the kombucha in there, and then follow up with your milk kefir, because your milk kefir, you want it to be going into the gut with resident bacteria that's already there. That way it goes and starts living with it instead of trying to conquer and take over everything. But you can't beat that right there for taste or flavor. Make smoothies out of it. It's like taking a good yogurt and add your fruit and stuff to it, and it's really, really good. I got my COVID scarf. It's COVID time. We went to a meeting today. And we got a couple of these in there, the kombucha. Alright, I'm going to do a separate video on how to do the kombucha, but for people who are interested in getting the grains and having the kombucha, or the kefir milk, that's all you need to know right there. you saw what I did. Now, I did modify that strainer just a little bit. It was, when it gets thick, it was draining a little bit too slow. And I just took a small drill bit and drilled these out. But I regretted doing that because I spent about 2 hours with a pocket knife getting all the little shavings off of it. And then you just throw some hot water in there and rinse it out, and some good soap. It does have an oily thing because of the fat and the cream. And then I'll go ahead and hand wash that in a little bit, and then it's done. All right. Any questions, just post it. And if there's anything I think of in links or whatever, I'll put it in the little note section. All right. Thanks, guys.